Also, the most recent blog post was a similar inspiration. I saw a picture on LinkedIn, of all things, of a picture taken from a NASA probe as it flew by Jupiter. And, my fascination with the unknown has to do with the physical world. As a physicist, I find the universe as it is completely amazing. That, in some sense, you couldn't make this up. And Einstein said, I wonder if God had any choice in how the universe was made, because everything fits together and interconnects so much so that it's almost like it couldn't be assembled piece by piece. It almost had to be made of a whole for all the laws of nature to fit together as they do.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw this picture of the surface of Jupiter taken from, I don't know, probably a few 100,000 miles away, a telephoto lens on a space probe. And as a physicist, I know what's going on there. There are these storms, there's liquid nitrogen and methane. It's incredibly cold, like 200 and some degrees below 0 Fahrenheit. There are winds of 1,000 miles an hour. It's incredibly violent and powerful. But what I was really concerned about was, why is this beautiful? Why did this strike me as beautiful? And I had to think about it for a while. And it takes a while for the message to get there, which made me think, it's like that probe by Jupiter. Even at the speed of light, sometimes takes a few hours for the signal to reach Earth. And it was kind of like that. It took a while for the signal to reach Earth. And I started thinking, well, this reminds me of something, or elicits something. And I started thinking more about it and realized, oh, I've seen paintings like this. And I realized that Vincent van Gogh's Starry Night has this very peaceful scene, but the peaceful scene has embroiled in all this turbulence. Instead of just pinpoints of light, the sky is wild and flowing and turbulent over this peaceful village in southern France. And thinking, wow, how did he, why all this turbulence in this incredibly peaceful scene? It makes for a very powerful and alive painting that of course, is justifiably famous, that is sort of peaceful and turbulent at the same time. And it's when there are these inconsistencies that are adjacent to each other that often generate deep thought and creativity.
Those edges, those juxtapositions, and those contrasts of that calm, yet the turbulence and the dialogue between those two, I think, is so powerful. And I think too, when you were talking about the beauty, and you were talking about Einstein and God and all of that, and that it just fits so perfectly together, it made me think about this concept called monocoque. We've talked about that in here. Monocoque is a single hulled
like an egg. It means one shell, really.
It means one shell. It's a French word. And if you think about the egg, it's a perfect design. There's no seams. It's all there, all at once. It's durchkomponiert. It's pre-composed, and that's what that made me think about when you were talking about looking at this image.
Yeah, that it juxtaposes calmness, what scientists call laminarity, smooth flow, and with turbulence, and that. Well, we've talked about, especially in the blog posts, about complex systems and the idea of phase transitions, that systems can go holistically from one kind of state, like ice being frozen, to water where the whole system is fluid, and that interesting things happen at the boundaries. And that one of the boundaries that occurs in physical systems is from smooth to turbulent flow. And turbulence mixes everything, and it brings what was on the bottom to the top, and what was on the top is pushed to the bottom, and rinse and repeat, as it were. And this is an important thing both in society and in the creative process, because in the creative process you want to bring new things to light. You have to stir things up a little bit. You have to create some turbulence. And not too much, because if things are just like old-fashioned television snow, there's no persistent pattern that can survive, that you can take advantage of. But if it's the same pattern all the time, that's not very interesting either. You need to dance around the boundary between laminar, smooth, and turbulent in your thoughts. And in society, this is true as well. People say, well, wouldn't it be wonderful to live forever? We've had a lot of losses lately, and so we've been thinking about this. And it's a mixed bag, because if you lived forever, maybe all the relationships would also be frozen. Nothing would change. And so people who were in places in life that they didn't like or disadvantaged somehow would be stuck there forever, a kind of purgatory. And that it's the urgency of the finiteness of life that drives creativity. It creates turbulence.
Continually evolving, that nothing stands still. It's like flux. We talked about that in art. The life, death, life cycle. We're expressing that in our lives and in our art. It doesn't stand still.